Good morning Year 5, I hope you are all doing well. This is the last video of the week. So we've covered factors, multiples, prime numbers, then we've done two types of multiplication, and then today we are carrying on with division, but we are looking at division with remainders. Before we move on to that, I'm just going to go over yesterday's challenge. So we had the question 9,414 divided by 3, and I used the short method of division to do that. Now the answer that I got was 3,101. Hopefully you can spot the mistake that I made. So I said 3's into 9 was 3, so that was correct. How many 3's went into 4, which was 1, so that part was correct. But what I didn't do was carry over the 1 that we had left over. So I should have had then, how many 3's go into 11, which we know is 3. 3 groups of 3 is 9. And then we had 2 left over. So then we should have had a look at how many 3's go into 24, which we know is 8. So hopefully you should have spotted that my actual answer should have been 3,138. If you got that correct, then well done. So we are looking today at division with remainders. So first of all, let's think about what does that actually mean, remainder? If I had the question 26 divided by 3, what does that equal? So here I've drawn out my 3 equal groups, which is really important. And in each group, there are 8. However, I'm only up to 24, but I wanted to share out 26, so I've got 2 left over. I cannot add those 2 to another group because I haven't got enough. I'm sharing between 3, so then each group wouldn't be equal. Therefore, the 2 that we had left over becomes our remainder. So for this question, my answer would be 8. I've got 3 equal groups of 8, but I have a remainder of 2. There's a few things that we can do with that remainder, and the first thing that we're going to look at is turning that into a fraction. Now remember, a fraction is a part of a whole. So I have 8 full groups, and then 2 out of 3 that I couldn't make into a group. So easy as this, all I've got to do is look at my whole number, so that stays the same, it would be 8 whole groups, but then I have 2 left over, my remainder, out of, because my divisor is 3, out of 3. My fraction, my part of a whole, I only had 2 out of the 3 that I needed to make another whole. Let's have a look at another one. So if I've got 29 divided by 5, I've got 29 things, sweets, pencils, and I want to split them into 5 equal groups. Because 5 is my divisor, I've written out my multiples of 5 to help me over here. So let's think about how many full groups of 5 that I know that I can make. So I'm looking down here and I can see 25. I know that I've got enough to make 5 full groups of 5. 30, I haven't quite got enough. So I know that 5 full groups of 5 is 25. But how many have I got left over? Because I had 29. There's 4 left over. So remember, that becomes our remainder. So I can say 5, remainder 4. Now if I'm putting that into a fraction, it becomes 5 whole groups, and then 4 out of the 5 that I was looking for is my fraction. 5 whole groups, and then 4 out of 5. We can see that I'm only missing 1 more fifth, 1 out of the 5 groups, and then I'd be able to make another whole group. Okay, but I haven't quite got enough, so that's why our remainder is there. It's now time for you to pause the video, and I want you to have a go at this one on your own before we go through it. So the question is 34 divided by 6. Now if you're really struggling with this, you could make 34 things, pieces of Lego, coins, anything you've got around the house, and split them into 6 equal groups. See how many you've got left, that's your remainder. If you don't have that, you could write your multiples of 6 down, see how many full groups you've got, or if you know your 6 times table really well, this won't take you long. So off you go and have a try. See if you can also write your remainder as a fraction. So I have had a go at doing this, and I have written my 6 times table down the side to help me. I had 34 things, so how many full groups of 6 could I make? Now, when I was writing my times tables, I didn't go past 36 because my number is only 34. So I haven't got enough to make 6 full groups. I've only got enough to make 5 groups. So 5 full groups of 6 is 30. So that's my whole number. 5 full groups of 6. How many did I have left over? I had 34 things to share out. I could only put them in groups up to 30, so my remainder is 4. So writing that as a fraction, remember my whole number stays the same. So you're writing a mixed number fraction. It's 5 full groups, and then I had 4 out of my divisor, which is 6. Now hopefully you will have spotted there that you can also simplify that fraction, which would be 5 wholes and 2/3. Remember, whatever I did to the numerator, we do to the denominator, and we have divided them both by 2. So if you got that, well done. Now, we're going to move on because fractions we've looked at before. I'm now going to think about representing my remainder as a decimal. So my question is 22 divided by 5. I know there's going to be a remainder because 22 isn't a multiple of 5, it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. So thinking about my 5 times table, how many full groups of 5 do I know in 22? So I know it's 20, so that's 4 full groups of 5. 4 times 5 is 20, and then I've got 2 left over. So that gives me a remainder of 2. Now to help me turn it into a decimal, I'm going to turn it into a fraction first. So 4 remainder 2 is the same as 4 wholes and 2 out of 5. Now hopefully you are remembering that when we turn a fraction into a decimal, we need our denominator, so that's our bottom number, to be 10, 100 or 1,000. Because if you think about your place value grid, we have a decimal point, then we have tenths, hundredths and thousandths. So if I can get my denominator to one of those numbers, then it really helps me out. If I've got fifths, the easiest one to turn it into is tenths. So let's think, from 5 to 10, I have times that by 2. Whatever I do to the denominator, I must do the same to the numerator, so I times that by 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Now I've got, not forgetting our whole, 4 wholes and 4 tenths. So if I was to write that down in my place value grid, in my units column I've got 4 whole groups, and then 4 tenths, the 4 goes in my tenths column, so my answer would be 4.4. There's quite a lot of steps to that, so I want you to have a go now. It's time to pause the video and have a go yourself. Your question is 34 divided by 5. So think, how many full groups of 5 have you got? Write it as a remainder, write it as a fraction, and then see if you can turn that into a decimal. Rewind the video to help you. Okay, let's do it together. So first of all, 34 divided by 5. I know there's going to be a remainder. 34 isn't a multiple of 5. Thinking about my 5 times table, I know that 6 full groups of 5 is 30. I can't quite make another group, I can't get to 35. So I know my full groups, 6 full groups is 30, and then I know I've got 4 left. So it would be remainder 4. Now let's turn that into a fraction. So 6 full groups and 4 out of 5. So there's my fraction. Now remember, I want to turn that into my decimal. So my denominator needs to be tenths, hundredths or thousandths. So let's put my equal signs, that means the same as. My whole number isn't going to change, so it's 6 wholes. And then how many tenths, because I know 5 is easy enough to turn into tenths, is the same as 4 fifths. So 5 times by 2 gives me 10. do the same to my numerator, which gives me 8. So I've got 6 wholes and 8 tenths. So as a decimal, I should get 6.8. Hopefully you got the same. Okay, next one. This one's a little bit more tricky. It is 51 divided by 6. I want you to do the same thing. How many full groups have you got? How many remainders? Then as a fraction, and see if you can turn it into a decimal. This one's a little bit tricky, so think about your knowledge of fractions. Let's go through it. So 51 divided by 6. You could write your multiples of 6 down if you want to, but if you know already, then we know that how many full groups of 6 we could make is 8. 8 full groups of 6 is 48. And I should then have 3 left over, which becomes my remainder. Now I can write that as a fraction. So 8 full groups of 6 is 48, and I had 3 left out of 6. So 8 wholes and 3 sixths. Now this is where it gets a bit tricky. I can't turn very easily 6 into tenths, hundredths, or 1,000. So for this one, I was hoping that you might spot that 3 is half of 6, and therefore we should recognise that 8 wholes and 3 sixths is equivalent to 1 half. Okay, so we've actually divided them both by 3. Okay, hopefully you spotted that. And then 8.5, we can either turn that into tenths. So let's do that. So it would be 8 wholes. And how many tenths? So we times that by 5, times that by 5. 5 tenths. So as a decimal, 8.5. Very tricky. Okay, last thing you're going to face today with your division is what to do with your remainders in a word problem. So sometimes with that remainder you're going to need to round your answer up, and sometimes you're going to need to round it down. Here's an example. If I had 333 children going on a school trip, and each coach, don't laugh too much at my drawing, only holds 30 children, how many coaches would I need? So first of all, I think about my problem. I've got 333 children, and I need to split them into groups of, onto coaches of 30. So my number sentence is 333 divided by 30. So first of all, I'm going to figure that out. So I should know, well, 10 groups of 30 is 300. And then another group, 330. So that's 11 full coaches is 330. But then I've got 3 left over. So my answer is 11, remainder 3. However, if I only brought 11 coaches, then only 330 children could get on. And these 3 children would be left back at school. So my answer, I need to round it up. So I would need 1 more full coach. So rather than 11 coaches, I would need to take 12. And that is my answer. Now I'm not going to go through any more of those because I want you to think about what do you do with your answer. Do you need to round it up? Sometimes you will need to round it down. And that's what your task is going to be today. You will find today's tasks on My Maths. There are 2 of them. So there is one about division and putting your remainder as fractions, decimals or percentages. And then your second task is about interpreting those remainders and deciding whether to round them up or round them down. As ever, any questions or anything you're not sure of, just let us know. And of course, here comes the challenge. There is more than one answer to today's challenge. As a bit of a starting point, I want you to think about the properties of the numbers that work for each individual statement. So think about the multiples of 9. Okay, so there's a little tip to help you off, to start you off. And remember to email your solutions to the email address or post them on the blog. Good luck! That's it from me this week. I hope these videos have been useful for you. Let me know if there's anything that you want to go over in the next few weeks. Hopefully see you soon.